back in 2020, Honda dipped their toe in the fully electric car market for the first time with this, the Honda E, which is a very small short-range city car and a very quirky one at that. And in 2024, they discontinued it, mainly to focus on hybrids, but there were some other reasons why they did that, which we'll get into in this video. But I want to give you a full in-depth review of this car and also tell you some of the reasons why, as a used purchase, because obviously that's all you can get it as now, this might be actually quite a compelling wee package. It really is quite an interesting wee micro machine, this thing. So buckle up and let's get into it. Now, if you follow my channel, you'll know I don't like to talk much about the looks of cars because I think they're subjective and there's no point in talking about things generally that you can see for yourself. But in this case, I'm going to make an exception because this car is in a big way all about the quirky styling. And the fact is, this is just such a unique looking car that there has to be some credit given to the styling. And I want to talk about a few little things about it that I absolutely love. First of all, these headlights. They look like a girl with pretty eyes, don't they? You know, they really do just kind of wink at you. They're really, really nice and really bright, sharp LEDs. Love that. The charge point is on the middle of the bonnet here, which is great from a charging perspective because it's not on either side, and therefore how you want to park your car, it's not really going to matter from, you know, which angle you're at. So I do like that solution. There are a couple others that do it, but most cars it's on the side of one side of the car. So yeah, love that. This car also has the upgraded 17-inch rims, which I think look absolutely great and really proportionally go well with the car. So I definitely think if you're getting one of these, look for one that has the 17-inch rims because they make a big difference to the styling in my opinion. But this is the key thing. Camera-based wing mirrors. And the whole point of these is that it means that the side profile of the car is even snugger, which for a city car with busy, tight streets is going to make a big difference to getting down those tight streets. You imagine being in, you know, Europe somewhere and you're going down a really narrow street like in the Italian job or something, that could really matter, but it really does add to the styling of the car. And so when you look at this thing, it just looks different because of that. Now, a bit like in my Tesla, this has flush door handles, and I do wonder what they would be like in winter time when frozen, but I digress. The difference is you press the front, not the back, to open it, and you have keyless entry with your key, but you can also use your phone, just like in a Tesla, as a key, and you can also use all the functionality of your smartphone in terms of charging information, preheating, all that kind of stuff. So they were kind of ahead of their time compared to some competitors when it comes to that sort of stuff. Now, I can't get to show you them at night because it's long days here, but the taillights in the dark look amazing. And yeah, the whole back end of this car is just as funky as the front. But what's it like in the boot? Well, on paper, not a power tailgate. If it was meant to be a bigger family car or a touring car, if I had 171 litres to play with, I would have a bit of a problem with that. But in this case, would you get your Tesco shop in there? I think you probably would. To be fair, some of our Tesco shops, it might be tight, but overall, that is what that boot's for, putting your messages in it, as my granny would say. And if you put the back seat down, I say seat because it's a one-piece job. I like the way it does this though. Lever here, boom, down, and you've got 861 litres then, which if you're wanting to use this as a load lugger, technically, if you can just sacrifice your back two seats, you've got plenty of space then. But it is not a car for carrying big suitcases, and name me a city car that's going to be much better for that. They might have slightly more litres of space, but overall, they're all roughly going to have the same brief, which is that this car is for going around the city in and picking up small amounts of practical stuff. This one has a few tie-down points. You can take this load cover off, which will give you a little bit of extra space, and it's got a flat floor. There's no underfloor storage and nowhere to store the cables, which is annoying, so they have to sit at the side. Yeah, that really bugs me, but other than that, it's a small boot, but for this class of car, I'm not that bothered by it. So if you've got a short commute that involves a country road, then would this be a good car to have? Well, I'm pleased to say I think maybe it might be actually. Unfortunately, it's a slightly wet day, so I'm not really pushing the limits of this thing, and it's an electric car anyway, so I would never really go as hard in a corner as I would in a petrol or diesel car. But this thing is pleasantly fun to drive. It's rear-wheel drive, and it boasts a 50-50 weight distribution, so it's poised to handle the bends quite well, and it actually does. I really do feel like I've got a bit of confidence going into bends with this thing, and yeah, it's just kind of fun. It's just balanced and it's flat, and the steering's reasonably good. If you put it in sport mode, the steering's really good, and just generally think this is quite a fun little package. Now, you can get this car originally with 136 PS and 154 PS variants. They got rid of the lower powered one. This one is the higher powered one, so 154 PS and 350 Newton meters of torque. And it'll do 0 to 62 in 8.3 seconds, which is okay, but in electric car terms, technically quite slow. But obviously, around the city, is that going to be a problem? Absolutely not. So if you keep with the method statement of this car being that it is a city car, then the acceleration point should really not matter. And to be honest, because it's an electric car, it still feels like it's got plenty of punchy acceleration, and so I don't really feel like I'm wanting for more. I'm really impressed with the steering though, and quite how much when you put it into sport mode it gets better. I really do feel, let's do that now actually. Right, sport, and yeah, the car just feels like, really good. I put it straight back into normal mode because the bottom line is I do not have a lot of battery to play with here. It's funny, if I was driving my Tesla right now and it said I had 54 miles of range, I'd be going, oh my God, I better charge it soon. But in this thing, I'm like, that's loads of range, let's go on a road trip. But technically it's not. So unfortunately, I'm not going to have lots of drive-by B-roll of this car because it just eats up too much battery constantly driving past the car. And the weather's been pretty mixed as well. So yeah, I'm gonna have to limit that, I'm afraid. Oh, I'm behind a Porsche Taycan right now and I'm thinking, damn, let's have a drag race. It's not the sort of car where I'm gonna recommend you overtake like 5 cars in a row. But if you need to get past somebody on a country road, you can overtake with reasonable amount of comfort, and yeah, you're not going to be worrying too much about playing chicken with an oncoming car. It's definitely got enough performance there, but it is maxed out at 90 miles an hour, which obviously isn't really going to be much of a concern unless you're a really dangerous driver, but that is your limits. Okay, right, let's launch this thing. .18. That's all right. That's pretty much on the nose. It's never ideal doing a launch on a public road. I basically had no time. I just had to basically stop the car and start it again. So yeah, that's an unfortunate byproduct of having a small YouTube channel where I'm not able to go and be like, can I just borrow your airport runway for the day, you know? And you may be wondering why I was using a stopwatch and not my other timing gear that you might have seen in other videos, which is clearly a bit more accurate. Well, it's because I've lost the charging cable for it. Yeah, it's a sort of Muppet thing that I do, to be honest. So unfortunately, until I find it, I'm stuck with a backup plan, which is a stopwatch. The visibility side of things is fantastic. You've got a really good view out the back, and obviously these digital cameras in place of wing mirrors are, yeah, actually increasing your visibility. So they are really interesting, but we'll talk more about those in a bit. This car is just such a little car that it's going to be so easy to park anyway, but I definitely feel like on the road, I really know where I am on the road. Something else I'm quite impressed with is even with the upgraded 17-inch rims that this one's got, 16 is standard, the suspension's good. I am really finding it absorb the bumps pretty well, and this is on a country road, so I'm going to try out in an urban setting shortly, but I do think that it's absorbing the bumps really well. There's no adaptive suspension or anything like that, but who cares? Doesn't need it. It's just a really good balance of firmness and comfort. But this battery though, 35.5 kilowatt hours, obviously that is not a big battery, which means it's not a particularly heavy electric car, but it really does limit how far you can go with this thing without either having to very carefully plan your charging stops or making sure that you've got a charge point back home that you can get back to quickly. Refinement wise, I think for the class of car this is in, I think it's pretty good actually. There is a bit of noise coming from the road, but because you haven't got any wing mirrors, you don't need to worry about any noise coming from around there. So I definitely think you can chat to your passengers fairly comfortably without having to shout. This car's just got such a unique look about it that I just think it draws attention. I've definitely seen a couple of people looking at me going, what are you driving? You know, they're so rare on the roads and they're also just so unique looking that I just think people are not used to seeing them, and so they do double take this car, and that is definitely a good thing. I'm quite impressed with these seats too. Not so impressed with the fact there's no lumbar support of any sort that's adjustable, but they are fully manual. However, yeah, they're overall, they're pretty easy to get the right position and comfortable, and they just feel really nice. High quality leather, a little bit of cloth in the middle, but these are really comfy seats. They hug you in really well, which definitely adds to the sort of country road blast that you're maybe going to have a tapered volume, you know, but it's really comfortable. So I think if this is your commuting car, yeah, you're sitting in here, you're going to feel with the ambience of this interior like you've kind of been warped to your office before you got to your office. Something that this car is going to be better than just about all of its rivals at is the steering wheel. The quality of it is absolutely top notch. The leather feels lovely to hold. It's a good thickness. Reminds me of my old Honda Accord from back in the day, and that was a really premium feeling steering wheel. But this one has lovely, okay, they are piano blacky, but this has lovely clicky buttons on both sides, and the controls side of things is ace. Something else I'm going to praise this car for is it's got a heated windscreen. Don't see that very often, so happy days. You know, we clap for Honda for that one, because an awful lot of car manufacturers do not offer that. What a great feature to have in places like where I live. You know, just winter days, it's freezing, press a button, boom, your windscreen is clear instantly. I love that. Another party piece of this car, which as a city car is a particularly important, useful feature, is the turning circle in this thing. 4.3 meters, and you know, whether you know what contextually that actually means compared to other cars, let me just say that this thing will turn on a dime. It is absolutely amazing for that. You can literally just almost spin it around on its axis. It's fantastic. Something I'm finding hard to get used to is these camera wing mirrors, you know. Yeah, you just take a while to adjust your eye line to a different part of the side of the car, you know, but I think when you're like going round a pillar or something, when you go past it, for a split second, I'm kind of going, oh, I think I'm going to hit that. It feels like I'm closer to it than I actually am. So, yeah, that is just something I think is going to take a bit of adjusting, but once you do, I think you'll love them. As standard, this car has 6 speakers, but if you go for the advanced model, you get 8 speakers on a sub. I've tweaked it a bit to see if I can get better sound out of it. The bass is reasonably good, but I'm not really loving the mid-range and the treble. It's really tinny actually. So yeah, I don't find the Japanese or the Koreans particularly good at upgraded stereos, to be honest. They generally never seem to be as good as ones I've found in German products, if I'm honest, or Volvos, or even my Tesla. But it's okay, and you know, if you're going around the city and you pump up your tunes, you don't want to be drawing too much attention, so it's good enough, but it's not amazing. Okay, I'm in a slightly more urban environment, so what's the suspension like at lower speeds? I'm going to go over this little imperfection here. I mean, that was a pretty bad one to be fair, so yeah, I really felt that one, but it's pretty compliant, you know. It's not air suspension, but it definitely went over that okay. I wasn't like, ugh, you know, feeling like I was getting booted up the arse. That was definitely acceptable. And so, yeah, it's not the most comfy suspension in the world, and it does fidget a little bit, but I'm not unhappy with it at all. So this car should officially do 137 miles of range. Yeah, never happening. In the real world, on a good day, you'll get about 110 if you're driving frugally. The owner of this car says around 100 is about right. If he's driving on motorway miles, he'll get 90 at a push. So obviously that is quite limiting. It really is. But that's the key thing. If you know that this is like your second car in your household, and you know your other car can be used for longer journeys, and this is basically just a car you use for bombing about the city, and you know you've got a charging point at home that you can get back, and after you've commuted to work, whatever, plug it in again, then it's not a problem. But it does still mean that the things you can do with this car are very limited. And it's not the only electric car where that's an issue, but it is, as far as a fully electric car goes, at the bottom end of the scale in terms of range. You've got quite a lot of settings of regen in this, more than you probably need, but the regen is good, and it does slow the car down nicely. Got paddles as well, which I think are to adjust them. But yeah, the regen's decent, and it's one of those things about electric cars that I absolutely love, you know, one pedal driving, just not having to worry about using your brake. It'll preserve your brake pads massively, which drives down your maintenance costs, and oh, absolutely love that. Now this car's got quite a lot of rivals. Obviously I've driven the Mini Electric, and it was slightly quicker, had a similar quality interior, we'll talk about that in a bit, but it was definitely not as good to drive in the Benz as this. Other ones you can get, some of them, the Renault Zoe, which is a very popular, affordable electric Super Mini. And you also get the Fiat 500 electric, Vauxhall e-Corsa, there's a few others there as well. But they will all go nearly twice the distance on a charge for nearly half the price. However, they will not have a couple of things that this car has: uniqueness and character. I really like the back seats in this car. It's just a lovely place to be. I feel like I'm in a Swedish lounge. The design here is really great, and it's definitely bold for Honda specifically. It's not the sort of vibe that they typically have gone for, but I am loving it back here. All this fabric, and these seats are really soft, and it's just like one piece seat. It's like a bench, you know, there's no buckety bits on there or two bits. So 3 sets of legs and bums back here will have exactly the same experience. It's not a very wide car, obviously, but it's wide enough that 3 kids could sit back here for a while and be in relative comfort. There's no transmission tunnel really, so that's all good. Near in though and out are 2 seats. Seats in my driving position, I'm 5'9", not masses of it there at all. Headroom is tight, but yeah, anybody over 6 foot will struggle. Toe room isn't great either, so you can't really spread out, and you can't put these seats back at an angle or anything like that. So it is what it is, but for a couple of kids back here, it'll be fine. Otherwise though, there's a few little touches I really like. You've got a little cubby down here you can put stuff in, and you've got a couple of USB ports as well. Love this little light on each door that you can basically put these LED lights on as well, so that's cool. Elbow point isn't the softest, and it's quite far back to put your elbow without going into this little hole here, so I'm not really loving that for elbows, and there's no center armrest. But I do love the situation with the ISOFIX points. Our 2 seats have got them, but they're tucked away, and so it looks much more like a really nice sofa we're sitting on here. But if you do need your ISOFIX, well, then you just pull back this bit here and you've got really easy to get to ISOFIX. So I love the way they've done that. It's just kind of best of both worlds, because some people just don't need to see ISOFIX points glaring at them. Loving the brown belts as well. Overall, this is a lovely place back here for a couple of kids, and yeah, none of its rivals are this classy. So this is my favourite part of a review, is usually just sitting talking about the interior. Let's start with a little quality check on the door. It's not the best, if I'm honest. That is not the best thud of a door sound I've ever heard. And it's frameless windows, which, yeah, they make it feels a bit more rattly because of that. So you can't really judge it based on that, but it's not the highest quality door close I've ever heard. But whatever, it's not a problem, it's just not the best. Barring this armrest, which is the optional extra, which feels extremely wobbly, but actually very, very comfortable for your elbow, the interior quality in here is quite exceptional. I am amazed how nice this feels. And this wood trim and the doors, and it's like a blooming, it's like a carpet. It's absolutely lovely. Elbow point there is okay, but yeah, it's at least where your elbow goes as opposed to in the bag. It's not so bad. But everything about this is just absolutely lovely, and just the whole design, it's like, wowzers Honda, you really went to town on this thing. And I don't really know why, from that perspective, it wasn't a bigger seller. I'm not a fan of the buttons for changing gear, but in this case, I quite like it. I like the way for reverse, you just kind of flick it back with your finger. So yeah, that's cool. And you've got your drive modes and your parking brake and your 1-pedal driving button as well. But I love this. You've got this cup holder that sneaks out from the front that you can pull out, which is really cool. I didn't see that initially. And where otherwise your elbow point would go with this armrest, underneath you've got space for more adaptive cup holders with a rubber mat on the bottom, so you can get a lot more space in there. So that whole center bit is decent. There's a little bit at the front there as well, beside this ridiculous array of different charging ports, HDMI cables. You've got a 3-pin plug as well. They have thought of everything with connectivity here, so that's fantastic. But you can put your phone in that wee slot down there and just hold it there, not wirelessly charged, but whatever. That's a great wee pocket for that. The door bins, plasticky and very narrow at the back, but you will get a big bottle in the front, and it fits really snugly as well, actually, so I'm quite happy with that. But yeah, it's decent. That's pretty much it on the practicality front. There's no sunglasses holder, and the glove box, reasonably decent size. But let's get on to the technology side of things, because that is really where this car is a mixed bag of wow factor and maybe looking better than in some cases actually is. First of all, I love the fact that you've got this massive long display of basically your cockpit and two infotainments, never mind the fact you've got two big screens for your wing mirror cameras. But a lot of cars are now, especially the Germans, starting to give you another screen for the passenger. But this is quite a few years old, this car was designed, and you've already got one. So your passenger's got their own controls, which I think is kind of cool, without stretching over here. But I do like the look of all this. I always like my infotainment to face me as the driver, because that feels much more driver centric and about the driver. In this case, it doesn't. It's very much just across the way in the car. And so I'm not a fan of that in any car, but yeah, the way they've designed this, it still looks really cool. My issue isn't the buttons, and I do like the shortcut buttons you've got at the side here. All that's good. But it is quite laggy, and sometimes it's been extremely laggy, and I really feel like there's no excuse for infotainments to be so laggy in this day and age. And so I gotta give it a bit of a fail on that front. But the things it does do, it's got Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, so you're all good there, and it's got, you know, DAB radio obviously, and your infotainment system's got sat nav and all that sort of stuff. So it's got all the information and different bits and pieces and apps that you'd expect it to have. And you've also got this aquarium mode, which is interesting. So you can basically have what looks like fishes in a goldfish tank in your car. So yeah, that's interesting, but it works. I just can't be doing with lag. You know, I want to press a button and instantly go to where I want to be. That's where technology's got to now. And you know, people have short attention spans and patience with things like that, and I don't want to press a button and then have a delay. You know, I just don't want that. It's a mixed bag with the actual delays. We'll turn that off. But you've got some interesting shortcut buttons at the top here on your dash as well, and a volume knob. And Honda really got the memo that people were sick of, you know, not having a knob for volume, so they went back to that. Happy days with that. So yeah, it's interesting, and I have to say overall, I think it's a net positive. Just wish it was a bit less laggy. You've also got a digital cockpit, which I really like. Not very customizable as far as I can see, unless I'm missing something, but it's got all the information there that I want. I don't really care about having major customization on that bit. I want my infotainment system to be more like that, but in front of me, I just want to know the important functions of the car and where we're at with charge and all that, and my digital speedo. And that's one thing that's a little bit of a problem, is the digital speedo is quite high up in the cockpit, and so I like my steering wheel to be quite low, and therefore it almost obscures the top of the digit, which is a little bit annoying, so I'm kind of looking down a bit. But other than that, it does what it says on the tin. But these cameras for wing mirrors, I generally think that they are a cool part of the car, and technically you're getting a bigger field of view with them than you would an actual wing mirror, and so your blind spot and all that's covered. My only issue is the resolution of the cameras could be a little bit better, and so when you're looking at something that's actually far away through the camera image, it looks quite, you know, grainy in the background. Like I was looking at cars coming down the country road when I was doing the launch, and from a distance it's really grainy. You know, you can't really see that clearly what it is, whereas with an actual mirror you would have no doubt what it is. I do also like that in your main interior mirror you can either choose to have it as a camera or have it as an actual mirror, so you've got the options there. Some cars now you don't even have a back window to look out, so happy with that. But yeah, an 8.8 inch cockpit and two 12.3 inch infotainment displays plus these two cameras, I feel like I'm in an IMAX. You know, there really is just this array of sort of modernness being thrust in my face here, mixed with this really nice sort of office ambience, and it's just kind of a weird but funky place to be. You've also got a fixed sunroof, which from the back seats looks great. From the front you never really get the benefit of it, but your kids in the back will definitely be able to have a good view upwards. But it is fixed, so you can't open or anything like that. But yep, more light in the cabin is good. And just to clarify the options this particular one has to make it look extra pimpin', it's got the modern steel metallic paint with additional armrest here, and it has midnight black leather seats, which I highly recommend, the premium pack and the 17-inch wheels. In case you're wondering what the premium pack includes, it has elegance floor mats, side body trims, doorstep garnishes, and front and rear mudguards. So back to the whole discontinued thing and why this maybe happened to this car. Battery technology has moved very fast, and a lot of cars had way better range than this one does at the same time it came out. And so people are generally thinking, oh God, you know, I need more range. And so a lot of people essentially just went and bought a different car. which hurt the sales of this, and eventually they thought, this isn't really working, and so that was a big reason why they pulled the plug on it. Honda also really decided to go along with hybrids, and so their focus on EVs was never massively there. It was almost like this was a concept car that they brought out and weren't maybe intending to, but then went with it. You know, I'm not being serious there, but it's just a kind of weird situation where they put so much effort into building an electric car and making it so quirky and brilliant, and then kind of just went away from it so quickly. You know, it's just like, I don't really know behind closed doors what really went on here, but surely the range factor was a big part of why this one did not do too well and they pulled the plug on it. But another problem is the charging stats, and they don't make for great reading, to be honest. You can charge this 35.5 kilowatt hour battery in 31 minutes to 80% using fast charging, and you know, considering the size of the battery, you know, you could do much bigger batteries with that sort of speed in other cars. So that is not quick. You can also do a 7 kilowatt home charger in about 4 hours. Again, with the size of the battery, that is not particularly quick either. And a 3-pin is going to take you 19 hours. But yeah, if you're using one of them, you need to have your blimmin' head examined, to be honest. But yeah, they just haven't really got the range and charging bit right with this car compared to other cars. But that's the thing. It only is a problem if you really need more range and if you don't have a charge point at home. If you do have one and you do not have to take this car far and you have another car in your household that you can do that with, then you start to see where this car potentially has some real merit. And as long as you're disciplined about plugging in and charging it, then I don't think that's a huge problem. And therefore, if you take that out of the equation and you start to look at the other perks of this car, it starts to make a lot of sense, because you've got such a cool, funky little interior here with lots of toys, functionality, and basically something that's totally unique on the roads, drives pretty well as well, and is reasonably punchy. There's a lot of things to like here, and so it starts to make you think, if I can just be sure that my driving circumstances are going to suit short journeys only, then why would you not take a look at this car compared to some of its rivals? Because will you ever really need more range than this can offer? Possibly not. But that's the other thing, the price. When this first came out, it was quite an expensive car, knocking on the bones of 40 grand. You'll pick up one now for 12 to 16 grand, thereabouts. And the key thing is though, this one is holding its value a little bit better than some of its rivals. In fact, some of its rivals, the valuations of those after 3 years are eye-wateringly bad. But the thing for me about this car is quite simple. It is extremely rare on the roads, and it looks different, it looks cooler, and this interior has a major wow factor. It's got loads going for it, and it is just, you get in this car and you're taken aback by how funky it is, you know. And a lot of people will just have an emotional connection to a car like this. You know, on paper, if you look at this car and you look at the reviews about it, a lot of people slate it, and it's like, oh, you know, statistically it's bad for this and this and this. But I kind of look at this car a bit like one of those mates you've got that is a bit of a liability, and every time you go out with him he ends up getting arrested or just doing something ridiculous. But at the same time, they've got amazing banter, and so you always just want to have them around because they're a character, you know. That's this kind of car. I shouldn't like it for a lot of technical reasons, but I just do, you know. It just makes me feel good being in this car, looking at it, and yeah, it's just special, unique, rare, and it's got character. So I think as a used buy, this one might be less of a risky play than a lot of other used electric small cars, because I think it's going to hold its value a bit better for the reasons I've mentioned. So if you're looking for a small electric car and you're thinking about a used one, definitely take a look at this one if you don't need one that has a lot of range, because it might well be just what you're looking for, and it might be something that when you get up in the morning and you go to switch it on, puts a little smile on your face, because it's got those emotive vibes about it, which a lot of cars don't. Anyway guys, I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, please leave me a comment below. I'd love to know your thoughts. If I've got anything wrong, please do let me know. I'm humble to have the record corrected, no bother. And yeah, if you enjoyed the video, please do like it. Don't forget to subscribe as well, share it, all that good stuff. Doesn't cost you anything, but it massively helps me with YouTube and the algorithm and all that bollocks, so that would be fantastic. But yeah, it's been a real treat having this car, and I'll see you in the next one.